So, Andromeda with a drama. That's prompted us to want to talk about game reception, reviews, the community feedback, and just in general how games are perceived and how it's so different than it used to be. Because let me preface by I bought Andromeda because I decided to just play it anyway, and I was joking with these guys. I said, there's a lot of controversies around this game. There's a lot of people saying it's not going to be that good. There's a lot of people saying that the animations were buggy and the story was terrible. Like, there's a bunch of terrible reviews to the point where the game was a meme of being bad before the game even started. And I said to myself, you know what, I've waited too long for this game. I'm just going to go ahead and be disappointed. Like, I deserve a right to share in this disappointment. So I loaded it up and I started a character and I made a different character. And you know what? I've played probably 6 to 7 hours now. And I'm having a good time. It's fun. It's not perfect. It's not Mass Effect 3, but I didn't expect that. And I I wonder how many people that would like the game were completely turned off by just the sheer amount of hatred it got. So that prompted us to ask ourselves about how game reception works and about how the online community and social media and reviews specifically can really, obviously, are all something the game has to try to fix. So I thought that, what do you guys think about this whole Andromeda controversy, if you will? For those that aren't familiar, I mean, it's all over the news. It's probably trending on Facebook even. Andromeda's just been hit with everything from saying that it's politically driven, and that's frustrating, all the way over to there are glitches and stuff that are game breaking or make it literally unplayable. So what do you guys think?
I think anytime you have years of hype for a beloved, a sequel to a beloved series, and it falls short in even the slightest way, that can get magnified. And I think part of that can be kind of seen. I think last time I checked, the game's actually holding like a 75 rating on Metacritic, which, is a good game. It's not great. It's not, a masterpiece by any means, but it's also not horrible. And I've heard plenty of different podcasts this week as people have delved deeper into the game. They mentioned the animation stuff, and that's an issue. You expect a little more polish on a game of this size and hype level, but for your $60. But it seems like people are enjoying the game. So I guess it's, you kind of want to delve into, okay, well, what was the fuss all about? Why was it such a big deal? And did embargoes have something to do with it, where people just saw little clips of the worst possible moment of a conversation and freaked out? Was there something to it? I don't know. I haven't played the game. Nick, you have, and you could probably give us more info on, how much of a problem it really is. But
sure,
I don't know.
I mean, I'm enjoying it. I'm a huge Mass Effect fan. Like, it's something that it's one of my favorite game series, if not my favorite game series of all time. So I can appreciate the outrage, because people want their baby to be beautiful, right? And the hype surrounding this game was like nothing there has been in a while. And I got to ask myself, I don't know, man. I don't think that anything could really live up to the amount of hype that they threw at this thing. I mean, Mass Effect 3 got a 9.5 review, and people just shit on that ending. They just freaked out about it. Do you you guys remember back in 2000 whatever, and there was the...
Well, I thought that was stupid, for the record, that they freaked out about that, but continue.
Yeah, me too. But do you remember people have a strong reaction to what they love and what they like, and I think that has something to do with it. The game itself, all those glitches and bugs are annoying, and they're noticeable, and they're there, but the original game had the same things, and yeah, it's a completely different engine, and people are saying stuff like, well, it looks way better in the old Mass Effect. I don't necessarily think so. I think that whatever they did with their engine focused more on subtle movements. There's a lot of like darting eyes and stuff, and at the expense of, if you make this is just a theory, I don't actually know this, if you make your own character, that doesn't transfer very well face to face. It's only good for the original character model. And there's a whole controversy surrounding that. They changed the way that the female character looked right before launch. Even the gameplay footage trailer had her looking different. And there's all sorts of outrageous claims that are, I mean, not, I wouldn't say unfounded, just a lot of theory crafting about why they changed her model. But it just pretty much the female character, whatever they did to translate, like just makes her make really dumb faces all the time. Which, if you guys play Mass Effect 3, I know only Daniel has. In Mass Effect 1, like there is a certain charm to how he made dumb faces sometimes. Like he'd be like that. Oh, I know exactly what I'm talking about, and he just like raises like just like a really cheesy smile for a second, and it became a meme. So I don't know. I think that doesn't break the game. The game is nowhere near as good as the old Mass Effects, but just like we talked about last or 2 weeks ago, Halo 4, still fine. It was still fun. You know, it still was enjoyable. I still had a good time with Halo 4, even though I didn't particularly. Didn't feel like a Halo game to me. This doesn't quite feel like a Mass Effect game to me. What are you gonna do? Enjoy it or don't? I don't think that.
Yeah.
I don't think that mercilessly comparing it to its predecessor of 5 years before is really fair.
Especially because you mentioned it briefly. You know, first of all they switched development teams. They switched engines. They moved from Unreal to Frostbite, so they had to rebuild everything from scratch.
Yeah.
So I mean, they had 5 years. Okay, they still had to rebuild everything from scratch. I mean, that's a big deal. And then, like I said, they completely changed, development teams. It's still BioWare, but they moved to, I believe, BioWare Montreal took over, so that Edmonton could work on something else. I was reading about this on Wikipedia.
And Casey Hudson left too, he was the Mass Effect guru.
Right. And as we talked about with Destiny, when someone who is that critical, I mean, it's 200 people made this game. There's a lot more important people. It's not always one person. But if there is a person that was, like he was the director of the original trilogy, if there's a person that has that much input and it's their baby, sometimes you do see that noticeable difference when that person walks away, no matter how many talented people are left behind. You know what I mean? Especially a series like this, that has a big following and has been around for a while and has, 3 games out in front of it before this one comes along. A drastic change comes in, new team, new engine, new director. Things are going to change inherently.
Yeah.
It's going to happen.
Absolutely. And just kind of build on a few of the things you mentioned. First of all, guys, just a quick note. I am super sick today, so I'm probably going to jump off in like a half hour, but I can't miss this Mass Effect conversation, so I'm just going to stick around for a little bit and work through it. So anyway, to go through what Frank was talking about, I did a bunch of research because I loved Mass Effect and was really looking forward to having something new that could be just as cool as that. And from what, I'm not going to repeat what the other two guys here said, but I did some looking around, and to Frank's point, the studio lost Casey Hudson, like Nick said, but then it also proceeded to lose its top writer underneath him as well, or it was the creative director. I think his name was Schultz, but he left to go do Destiny 2, actually, right in the middle of the development process. Another guy left too. I'm pretty sure even another one. And there was definitely, it's really tricky to speculate on when things are happening, but because, you don't see inside of the studio. So don't act like you actually know what's going on there. Yeah, like Frank said, there's tons of people, there's tons of different dynamics. But that said, there were a lot of people leaving. There were a lot of change-ups happening. And I think that a good case study would be Naughty Dog because they somehow managed to churn out great games consistently. And they all have a similar kind of engine. It's a similar kind of setup, Last of Us and Uncharted. But they keep their team together. And I think when you lose your team, like the team can become such an ecosystem. Because like Frank said, there's 200 people. And each of those people needs to know exactly what they're doing and how they're fitting in as a gear in this giant machine that has a deadline, And so, when that gets messed up, and I was reading some interviews from some actual animators who had a little round table to talk about why all this stuff about the Mass Effect animations, they aren't good. And basically all of them were just like, this is a really complicated thing. Most of these things have to be auto-generated. If there's a break in the communication line at any point, then this becomes behind, and then this has to be cut short, and then this other thing has to be cut short because of that, and then before you know it, it's just not as good as it could be, and it just takes a perfect flow to do that. So yeah, that's kind of my thought on it. I could see how things went bad, but it's still disappointing for me because I really was hoping that they'd pull something out that was great, that touched me like Mass Effect did. But to Nick's point, they did have a lot of emotion, right? Sad times, but there was a lot riding on it, and it's really hard, even if you look historically. Like let's take a journey into the past together real quick with Halo 4, which, like Nick said, was good, but it didn't get received super well. I mean, it was still, I think, in the high 80s in terms of scores, which we'll talk about later. But I remember I wasn't satisfied with it. There, all these other games, they come back to a series. There's just so much expectations, and I think it was really hard for them to pull that off. So I feel for them. I'm not buying it yet because I just want to see if it's fun. But it's still a game, like Nick said. So that's where I'm at with it.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, none of this. I mean, we're not trying to make excuses either. It's more of an understanding. It's more of quote unquote being reasonable. I mean, obviously you have high expectations. You want to feel like you're getting your value especially when you spend $60 on these games, or more if there's DLC involved. You want to make sure you're getting that value. So you have every right in the world to be critical. Especially the reviewers. That's their job. So I get it, and I do think sometimes you get a little. I know this. You get there's a groupthink thing that happens, and we can talk about it a little more later if we talk about social media or whatever, where it becomes cool to hate on something.
Yeah, I was just going to bring that up.
The pylon just happens. Okay, that is hilarious. That scene you showed me where that person just kind of scuttles across the room looking like they're floating on air or whatever animation problem you could show me. Sure, it's hilarious. You make a meme out of it, but then next thing you know, everybody's piling on, and it's so like, funny. Okay, it happens. Does that mean that
Yeah, sorry. I was just saying, people just feel like they have these bad feelings about something, and then they just jump on it, right? Like, that's all they need is just a little something to get started.
I mean, I fell victim to that too. I think that first I wanted to just to your point a little bit ago, it's really important for me to realize that what made Mass Effect so good as a series and what made so many people fall in love with it and it built you up with this core group of people, and like Act 1 you meet them and it's all very Star Wars A New Hope-y, right? We're gonna go do this together. We just met. Let's do this. And then by the end, you're a tight knit group. Mass Effect 2, they to get that group to fall apart, and now you have to meet a whole new cast of people who are just as interesting. And then Mass Effect 3, you get those core people and you reunite them and you combine them with some of the people from Mass Effect 2. So you have this kind of emotional journey, and it really it tied you to these characters. And there's even I remember the end of that game, I just was like, oh, I miss these guys. That was really fun to do that. And they make you emotionally connected to these characters. So no matter what you do, it's not like you're the new stepdad, right? You're not the original thing. You can't be that. And they had to take a course with this game, and we'll finish talking about Mass Effect specifically in a second. But they blew me away, Mass Effect Andromeda did, with their visuals. The opening cinematic, which I believe is Game Engine, maybe not, but it is incredible. They have the classic snapping out of hyperspace thing, and it just is so cool looking, and they just show the ship slowly light up as it comes alive, and then it runs into this really crazy situation, and the whole game starts with a sense of urgency, holy shit, we just woke up from a long slumber and there's stuff going on. And that was really cool. But I think that, and I fell victim to it too, there's this weird online social media review, YouTube content review mob mentality. And it's this really interesting development that's happened. I can't put my finger on when it happened, but it happened with the popularity of your sub 100,000 subscriber, pick your favorite YouTube content reviewer. That's kind of the new thing. There's a bunch of small communities. Instead of everybody goes to Metacritic or everybody goes to Kotaku or what have you, or it used to be GameStop. Do you remember had the review process? But that is like reviews mean more because they are more personable now. If I wanted to, hell, I could make a review video just talking over gameplay footage of a Mass Effect, and that's a fair use, right? So I think that because of that, everybody got on this hype train to mock and hate this because that is what is popular. And it's the same issue that we have today with our media and our news. We want to drive viewers. We want to drive people into our channel to talk about this stuff. Hell, we're talking about it, right? It's the hot topic.
Yep.
And
It's a trap.
It's like everybody's hating on this. Like, I'm going to hate, or I'm going to say, yeah, it sucks, but it's not so bad. And I think that that's really dangerous because I from one, almost didn't get the game as a huge Mass Effect fan. Like, I had an N7 shirt. Like, that's where I was at in Mass Effect, like, nerdiness. And, like, I read all the codex and shit. And then I almost didn't get the game because people were blasting it so hard. And then I watched a little gameplay of one of my favorite streamers, and I said, you know, that looks fun to me. Like, that looks like that's an enjoyable experience. And so I played that, and I wonder how many people are robbed of having a good time because somebody told them the game was absolute garbage. Just like so dramatic. It's trash. It's literally hot garbage. Cancel your pre-order. I want my money back. First off, don't pre-order games. Secondly, it's just like people freaking out about stuff. And I think that mob mentality has really made companies have to dance around stuff. And now they almost feel like they can't please everybody and they have to. And there's this weird... we're hiring community managers now. We're hiring people that run the Twitter, and their job is to literally talk. Look at Jeff Kaplan. Look at Deej from Bungie. All these people that their job is to talk to the community and tell you what's going on, so you stay not as salty as some. Because as Jeff Kaplan said, and for those who know who Jeff Kaplan is, I'm totally a fanboy, but he's the creative director, right, for Overwatch. Is that what it is?
Full-on game director.
Game director. Yeah, he says that when dealing with like online stuff, you have to realize people with an extremely negative view are often more vocal and passionate than people with a positive review, because if you love the game, you don't feel the need to go around and tell people buy it right now, because that aggression isn't there because you're satisfied. And I think
you're playing it.
Yeah, you're enjoying it. So I don't know if anybody's listening and you're wondering if Mass Effect Andromeda was worth buying. I would say yeah. I don't know if it's worth the $60 title. If they drop it to $50, I would say get it. $40, absolutely. But it's fun and I'm enjoying it, and there's a ton of content. The visuals are astounding, and the gameplay is more fun than any Mass Effect before. I was joking to myself, I didn't tell you this, Andreas, but I think you would actually like this Mass Effect more than you would have liked the original trilogy if you had played them when they were coming up, because the gameplay mechanics are actually really, really fucking fun. So I don't know, maybe I'll
Yeah, and I think, Andreas, didn't you say you like Dragon Age? I heard that it's got some things that are like Dragon Age.
Dragon Age Inquisition, if I heard
right,
correctly.
Inquisition, yes.
Yeah.
To be specific.
I was reading about some stuff about it, and it seemed really interesting to me. Just have to go get it, I guess.
Yeah, the gameplay is really fun. I'm enjoying it so far.
Yeah, and I was watching a review that a guy made, and he said that even though the animations are not the best in cutscenes and stuff like that, when you're actually in combat and doing all the fighting, it's really good then. Just not in the cutscenes.
And that's the risk you run now. Is if you release a title, the community reception is so huge. Didn't they lift the embargo early on this game to try to get people to see the actual gameplay?
Yeah, they did.
Yes, they at least the streaming embargo, they lifted it really quickly because they were freaking out.
I mean, I can't imagine what that would be like whoever's in charge of that, of like making sure that there's a smooth launch, is just scrambling. And I think we're seeing this more and more with game launches. What do you guys think about day one patches and fixing stuff that comes out on the day of release? Do you guys think that that's a practice that we're going to see more of, and that's something that should be done retroactively instead of reactively?
I have a complicated opinion, so Frank, if you want to go first, feel free.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where as technology advances and actually provides the capability of doing such a thing, we move beyond the days where even some large AAA tentpole titles would get delayed. Now it's like, okay, you're keeping that deadline. You're going gold on this date, and you're just going to push out a day one patch. And that's fine. And I think that the audience that it hurts, I think, is shrinking. But imagine you push out a game with something completely broken in it, and someone does not have high-speed internet. It's still not everywhere, and they're not connected to the internet, and they never get a patch for their game. I don't know, maybe there's only 5 people in the world this still happens to. I don't think that's the case. It's looking at it, from a cynical perspective, it seems bad, in my opinion, because of that reason. I don't mind teams squeezing work into fixing a game right up until launch day. That part of it doesn't bother me. It's we're doing all we can to push it out on release date. We have a hard set date, and I know that you have marketing plans. You spend millions of dollars on some of these things. You have to meet your deadlines, but I don't know. I guess I don't have a super strong opinion either way. I'm kind of meandering around here. But I know that it can be a problem for, there might be people who just, their console's not connected to the internet. And if something's broken there, then it's always broken for them. And that's a shame.
Yeah,
it's true.
100%. I think that, the question I would pose before, and I know we're getting to Daniel, your opinion in a second, but the question I would, part 2 to that is, should they be, is it because, do they need to, why is this happening more and more with games? There's these launches that go horribly. And I can't remember. Now, I'm talking AAA titles. I'm sure there's tons. But I'm talking AAA titles. I can't remember back when you actually had to go wait at a game store and get the CD instead of either pre-ordering it and just picking it up, or what I do, I digital download. I don't give a shit. And there was these rocky launches didn't really happen in AAA titles. And I don't know if that's because games have gotten more complicated since, let's say, Halo 3. But I don't, or do they need to play test this stuff better? Or are they trying to make changes at the last minute because of some kind of pressure from either the parent company, or why do we think this happens? And I guess, Daniel, if you want to complicate your opinion, then roll into that. That's fine.
Well, listen to Frank's. It's pretty similar to Frank's. I don't know how complicated it is, but it is kind of like meandering, like Frank's is. But you bring up some good points that I would like to kind of address in my own opinion, which is that, yeah, I do think that unequivocally, on just a very objective level, games are more complicated than they used to be. Halo 3, much smaller than, Halo 4. It was a new system. New system means there's more shit that you should be able to do. Animations should be better. Yeah, more than can go wrong. Animations that should be better. Because you can't just up the resolution and call it a day. You got to make better textures. You got to do everything. And then people want games to be bigger in general, even story-wise. So, yes, I'd say so. And to bring up another kind of an example, Bethesda, I think, is the constant in this whole thing. Because they always do their big open world. They do their big open world thing. And, they got Oblivion, Fallout 3. Morrowind's pretty good, if I remember correctly, but Oblivion, Fallout 3, Skyrim, they had their share of bugs, and they always do. It's a running joke, But it's just because, it's just so many things you can do. And to your question, Nick, I would say that yes, they always never have enough time to play test. They never get 100% coverage, as it's actually called. It's like what you call it, coverage on your program when you're doing testing. They never get that. Because, for instance, more research I did was Mass Effect Andromeda. Mass Effect 3 had 40,000 lines of dialogue. Dragon Age Inquisition had 60,000. And so if Andromeda is even in between that, that's an insane amount of things to test for. And that's just the dialogue.
My face is tired. I want to know
my
what
face is
happened
tired.
with Pathfinder.
What I really love about Bethesda is that they don't give a shit.
They don't.
It's hilarious. And do they actually
they do.
Do they get offended if you call them on it? I can't remember. I thought they do, but maybe I'm wrong.
I don't know, but it's probably the ideal outcome, right? That they just like it's kind of a joke, a meme joke that they have like a few weird issues, and then like they're probably just like, let's not test whether or not you can climb up a mountain with a horse that's 90-degree angle. Let's just see if that happens, and then we'll just leave it there. Like
That's part of
and
the.
so, like,
sorry,
no, keep going.
let me interject real quick and just say that's part of the
No.
charm of games, in my opinion, is the little glitches and bugs, stuff like that. It makes you laugh sometimes. I don't know, just some of the weird stuff that can happen is funny. I think that people react really strongly to certain things and not to others, but the other games have had glitches. Now, granted, Andromedas are pretty in like a story-based talking game. If the dialogue falls kind of flat often, and there's some weird glitches, like dude, because I've already seen a couple that were cracking me up when I was playing. For example, I was talking to a character, and there's a guy who was supposed to be. It was like this person who was supposed to be, I think, like working on something. Like you're supposed to be looking at doing looking at like some kind of thing, but his character model got moved somehow, so he was just right behind my conversation, just going. It was pretty funny. Sorry for the audio. I was just doing what he's doing. He's just typing in the air, but it was just kind of funny.
Typing into midair.
Yeah,
he's like miming in the background.
Yeah, it was pretty funny, and I was just like, okay. And I saw one on Reddit that was like Krogan, who's like supposed to be gesturing in a conversation, and he's right behind, and he's going like this, while the guy's just like standing there. He's like going really, really fervorous like movements. It's pretty funny, but I don't know. I think it's part
as
of
long as glitches aren't game breaking, I love them.
Yeah, they're funny, right?
Yeah, exactly.
The gameplay of that game is smooth, crystal smooth. It's really smooth.
Crystal smooth.
It's crystal, dude.
Good.
We are sponsored by Crystal Smooth. I don't know what that is. That's an actual company. We're not sponsored by it. But the thing I would say is, what if do you think it's because reboots are really fucking hard to pull off? Reboots of series are just, the expectations are so high that unless you do it in a different way, I'd say it's really hard to get it right.
Oh, absolutely.
When have we been satisfied with a reboot? I'm not talking Elder Scrolls or something, because that's not a reboot.
Right. Yeah, I mean, we talked about it earlier. We talked about it with Halo. It's a consistent thing. New team, new game, rebooting a series. You're never going to live up to what was there before.
It's not going to feel the same. It's not going to feel the same, though.
Right. I shouldn't say never, but it's almost assuredly not going to feel the same, and it's very difficult to live up to what was there before.
Let me throw out an analogy to you guys and see if you guys agree with me. It's like you for your wife's birthday every year, you get her a custom-made cake, and it's kind of a cute little tradition you have, right? And you have this bakery that does it exactly the same way every year. And then you and her decide to save some money, and you don't do it for 10 years. Maybe 5 years, 2 years, whatever. You go back. The bakery has been bought by a different group of people who really want to honor what the original bakery stood for, because it had a lot of relationships, and you ask them to make you a cake. That cake is not going to be made by the same people it was before. So expecting it to be the same cake is, in my opinion, unrealistic. Now, granted, we're the consumer. We can bitch and moan all we want. That's how the economy moves, and that's how products rise and fall, right? But I think that the expectation of this is going to have all the things that I liked before and more is kind of, it's like you're going to fail. Fallout 4.
Yeah.
Fallout 4.
I mean,
like Mass Effect Andromeda. What else we got? The Halo series.
Yeah. I mean, and the cake example is a great example right up until my next statement, where I say the thing is with a cake, if you get exactly what you wanted, you're going to be happy.
Or if it looks different and tastes better. Right? Like there's these things that
right. But then there's the other side of that sword, where if the game is just more of the same, they're gonna get killed for that too. So it's like, this is just like Halo 3.5. I mean, why are we doing the same thing again? You know what I mean? So it's like, if you don't innovate enough, you get killed for it. If you innovate too much to where it doesn't feel like the original thing, you get killed for that too. So I pity these developers sometimes, not the hacks. Obviously, there's some where you could tell where they're just really bad at their job, but sometimes they're just trying so hard, and the expectations, it's impossible to live up and please everybody. It really, truly is.
Dan, were you gonna say something?
Yes, dude. Oh, they're just trying their best, you know.
That said, they could have done a much better job, and
I'm
I'm ultimately disappointed. Like I wish I was, that's the thing is that we say all this stuff, but I ultimately disappointed in that game. But I think that there's this expectation, and there's these things where they do these alpha builds and beta builds for these gameplay tests. There's an interesting YouTube video which we can link in the show notes. I think it's by Crobat. Crobat is who does it, but it's the BioShock Infinite we never got. If you guys just type that in, and it shows all the gameplay and stuff of BioShock Infinite and the ideas behind it, and Ken Levine saying she's this character that can do this, that, and the other, and none of it happened. None of it happened. So much was not in the game. I still thought the game was great, but there was so much that got cut out of it from this original concept. You're left with a completely different thing. So there's so much that goes on behind the scenes. I am in no way making excuses for why stuff is messed up. I'm more just wanting to understand why stuff gets messed up. So
9 times out of 10, they realize they're going to overrun their budget or their deadline. I would almost guarantee that. Just knowing coming from that world, it's budget cuts midstream where they realize, oh shit, we're in trouble. We were too ambitious. We were pie in the sky, and we need to dial back. And that's why a lot of these companies are so secretive until they are truly feel like they've crossed the threshold where, okay, we have enough of what's actually going to go gold to show people, and we, and even then some things still get cut. It happens in movies too. How many times have you seen a movie trailer where you hear a funny line or something and it's cut out of the final product? I see it happen, at least often enough to know it's a thing.
Yeah, or they try to reuse it. I feel like in Mass Effect there's multiple times where I have NPCs or not NPCs, they're all NPCs, but the minor characters, if you will, that say something, and I'm like, I hear them say it, and it's like a small side quest, and I think, I feel like that person just, they cut dialogue from another thing that he said, because that didn't feel very cut together. So it's this stuff, I think scrambling is just, in any industry, is just a nightmare, and it creates situations like this. I wanted to ask you guys about games that you thought did it right, or situations that you thought were handled well. But before that, Andreas, did you have anything to add to this?
No, I haven't.
All right. Do you guys have any games where you felt like they did well, or it was impressive, or I don't know about I feel like Dark Souls has had a really good reception every time it's released, but I don't play it. I know that The Witcher 3 was considered to be a really, really good release. Any others that you guys can think of?
Mm-hmm. Well, the thing about those ones is that Witcher 3 is a sequel, Dark Souls is a sequel. They're just, moving steadily along in their process. They had tons of assets left over from the previous one. They had a clear sense of the tone. Is probably largely the same team working on it. All I could offer, because thinking about big AAA titles, like BioShock Infinite comes the closest. It was well done. I love that game. I'd say it's my favorite game. And it was high production value for sure. It was I'm not sure exactly where it falls on the scale from like Destiny level to that. But it was good. It was really good, and it seemed polished. And there wasn't any really weird stuff in the beginning, except I think there was like a frame rate stutter that was on one platform, but it was fine otherwise. All I can think of are criteria that's going to pretty much ensure that it's not going to be successful. And all the big ones, I feel like up to now, that have tried to, like we just talked about, reimagine or try, take over as a different studio or have a new intellectual property, like most of those just fall flat, just because of the giant budget and the giant machine that is development. But anyway, Frank, what do you think?
I would agree. It's definitely not something easy for me to do. Like I said, it's much easier to come up with what didn't work than what did work.
What about Breath of the Wild? The Switch launch had some issues, right? Was that handled well?
I thought so. There was, honestly, the hardware had a couple of issues, but they were a little quiet about it at first, but they actually just came out and had a very definitive, press release recently where they're like, okay, hey, there was a problem and it was code speak. They're doing everything they can to dance around any kind of recall, obviously. And they said it was a manufacturing variant, and they fixed it at the source. And if you have the problem, contact them, they'll fix it. So the hardware issue is taken care of. But as far as the game, and it kind of ties into some of the stuff we talked about earlier, is that, how much this stuff really matters. Like, it means something to me. Like, obviously we talked about this before, the hype train gets rolling. It meant something to me when I see that the latest game in a series I love, people are calling it a masterpiece, the definitive title in the series, the best one they've ever played, giving it 10s across the board. That matters because it's like, hey, okay, this game I love is going good. But then you see the other side of it, and I won't delve too deeply into it, but it can get ugly. It got ugly with Mass Effect. People got ridiculous, tracking down animators and finding out this and that and sending threats and blah blah. Just don't do that, first of all. But specifically about Breath of the Wild,
dude, neckbeards and their fucking
it's
desire to control that which they love.
Yeah, it's just don't be a no, really. It's like just don't be
in a very general sense. They just try to control everything.
It's like I know you want things to be a certain way, but just it's not always about you, and you don't need to be a dick to people, when something doesn't go your way.
God, the same
but
people. Oh my God.
But Breath of the Wild, yeah, same
I'm
people.
so triggered. I'm so triggered right now. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I know, me too. I'm trying to keep us on track while keeping it succinct. Don't be a dick. So about Breath of the Wild, when it came out, it was hovering, day one at like a 99, and I think it settled in at 98. And then all of a sudden, somebody rolls through and drops a 7 out of 10 on it, which I honestly, having played almost the entire game at this point, that's his opinion. He's entitled to it. If the game didn't touch him the same way it touched me, I get it, but I have no idea how the hell he gave it a 7.
He's
From
like,
there,
clicks, go.
it may be. For me,
Hello, ad revenue.
Right. For me, that's where it starts and ends. Whatever. He gave it a 10. It drops to a 97. I don't care. It doesn't impact me. But it pissed a lot of people off, and they lost their shit over, how could you do this? You dropped the game to a 97. Who gives a shit? Like, the only people that matters, and I think this is part of the problem. The only people it really matters to is if the developer was actually promised a bonus. And I think that's bullshit, too, because they're putting their work up for, an arbitrary, subjective set of numbers from a group mind that may shit all over your game. But I believe that Bungie was promised a $2.5 million bonus if Destiny launched with a 90 on Metacritic. Now imagine you're that development team, you put years of your life into it, and your game's sitting at a 90. And some jackass throws in a 7 out of 10 and drops it to an 89. You just lost $2.5 million because of some arbitrary subjective opinion. That's a whole other can of worms. I don't know how you incentivize your teams to make good games without subjecting them to something like that. But this is the problem: is this whole review score thing matters a lot more than it probably should, and people overreact all across the board, and some of them just get ugly, and it's ridiculous. That's like I said, you said, Daniel, when we talked about it a few weeks ago, there've been plenty of 6 or 7 out of 10 type games that you've played and enjoyed.
It's true.
You know what I mean? There's been plenty of 10 out of 10 games where I look at it and I'm like, okay, that was good, but man, why are you people going nuts about it? But it doesn't matter at the end of the day. What matters is when you pick up the game, did you enjoy it?
I think we can go.
Well, let's make a. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead,
I'm just gonna jump in. I'll let you go in a second. But before, what always keeps popping into my head that we kind of glanced on before is let's bring in the concept of movie reviewers and let's do an analogy. How do they fit? How is this supposed to be accepted? Because people are cool with movie reviewers largely. There's a few weird ones, but everybody goes on Rotten Tomatoes to see if a movie's good. Some people will be like, I liked it anyway, but they know why they did, and they know why it wasn't reviewed well, but they just still like it. So that's all settled out. To be very brief about it, I think that's not settled out at all in the gaming scene. But as well, again, it's just complexity. There's just so much difference. There's a guy I was reading this online as well. There was a roundtable with some other guys who were reviewers talking about why game reviews are totally screwed up. And one of the points was that, there's a guy who really likes JRPG games. He loves the hack and slash, Devil May Cry, fighting the big bosses kind of games. And he ends up, because he's like, for instance, attached to, just throw it out there, IGN, which reaches tons of people. He is obligated to do a review about games that are not JRPGs. Now, he may choose to qualify that or not, and I've seen that before.
Yeah, this isn't for me, but you might like it, yeah.
Exactly, and then they speak from that angle, which works kind of, but otherwise they might just, when it comes down to it, they just value they have different priorities of the experience, and that's a huge, huge issue. And I think it's just not easily solved in the short term. Anyway, that's what I got. Sorry, Nick, go ahead.
No, I was going to say this. I think this is going to be a little shorter episode, so we're going to start kind of closing thoughts here. And I think that one thing to note is, I guess the question I posed to you guys to kind of wrap this whole idea up of game reviews are not consistent. They're not, everything from, there might be a company that has stock in a review of they own part of, I don't know this, but let's say company X owns part of, has stock in IGN, and a competitor to this company just released a game. Like, do we have an impartial review when the review comes out? Is that, I'd hope so, but these are hard things. I know Rotten Tomatoes has recently been accused of this, that they are owned largely by a studio. I don't know if that's true. I don't have any basis for that other than people on the internet, which is always true, right? But let's say that was fact. That's disconcerting. And I think that the question I would ask is then where do we go for our reviews? Because I can't buy every $60 game, and I would say offhand, Twitch, of course, to go see the gameplay before you buy it. But what if I want to get a game on launch day? Am I gambling at this point?
Yeah, and I don't think you have any choice. And that's where you sign yourself up for Amazon Prime or Gamer Club Unlocked so that you can get a discount and at least drop it down to like $50 on day one. Or you just, a lot of times, and this is, this doesn't help the developers, I get that, but a lot of times, I guess they get their money anyway, but a lot of times I'll wait till that game drops to $45. If I'm unsure of it, I'll wait, because it will within 3 to 6 months nowadays, sometimes a hell of a lot quicker. I think, we're under 6 months since Titanfall 2 came out, right? And I'm pretty sure I've seen it for $20, $25 already, which is tragic for a game like that, it's life and blood. You need it day one to be on with the online, community. But right. Sometimes games just don't, it happens with single player games too. They just don't pan out and you get them at a discount later. So yeah, if you're buying anything day one, you're taking a gamble. It goes for hardware, software, like I knew going in, yeah, sure. It's disappointing that my $300 Switch has a little bit of a radio issue with the left Joy-Con, but I knew going in, being an early adopter, what I was getting into. And I think you got to just approach that with games the same way. You can try and not pre-order. First of all, I don't think anybody should be pre-ordering games, anymore at this point. There's just no reason to.
Yeah.
But, unless you think, for some reason I'm not going to be able to get this game. Well, with everything being digital nowadays, you could get the game if you want it.
Yeah, and there's no limits anymore. Dude,
right?
Like, it's just like, why are you pre-ordering?
Yeah, exactly.
If I'm gonna fund
you want to get a special skin on your gun if you pre-order.
It's part of the budget too. It's crazy. Pre-orders are part of the opening budget. Like, we expect this amount of money coming from pre-orders that we can put towards this.
Absolutely,
because they know people are going to do it. No matter how many podcasts you listen to that say don't do pre-orders, people do it anyway. I still do it sometimes. I'm probably going to pre-order Destiny 2 so that I can so I can get the preload. But at least that, to me, if it's a known quantity and without a doubt you are absolutely getting this game no matter what, sure. I pre-ordered Breath of the Wild. I knew I was getting it. I didn't get it bonus.
If it has a shitty review, you gotta play it. Let's see it.
Yeah, exactly.
The purchase is worth just the experience of trying the game out, good or bad. Like, that's when I think you pre-order. It's like,
right.
There's a lot of story behind this. It doesn't matter how this goes. I am willing to pay $60 just to experience this thing, however it is.
And if you're on,
and that makes sense.
Right. And if you're on the fence, don't pre-order it. Wait till the embargoes are lifted. Find someone you trust. whether it's, Waypoint, IGN, whoever it may be, the Giant Bomb, whatever, or just look at Metacritic. I don't think there's a definitive thing. I think it has to be someone that, you've read their reviews before and said, what? I agree. That person took that the same way I took it. I get it. I know in the future that 9 times out of 10, I can probably trust them. So I'll wait till the embargoes are lifted. I'll check their review. If they like it, cool, I'll go pick it up.
Yeah, for me, it's finding a like-minded Twitch streamer or YouTube channel that does a lot of that. And I've agreed with you on every other thing that we've played, so I'm going to go ahead and go with or watching them play it. Are they having fun? I think that's it. I think that's going to be the future, too. I think that we're going to start moving towards these small channels like we already are, like this guy, the guy that does Overwatch videos, his thing now is, hey, I'm doing a quick Mass Effect Andromeda review, guys. Hey, guys, welcome back to another episode of Mass Effect Andromeda review with his YouTube voice. But I think that's going to be, and I think that in a way that's more trustworthy because, I don't know, it's better. It's more reliable than some dude whose job is to review games without, that's what he gets paid for by a large company. So I don't know. I hope that going forward that games, they figure out the balance between consistency and not pissing off communities by delays and upsets and stuff, but also how to have a good launch. I think a good launch is really successful or really important to the health of the game.
Absolutely. I guess for my final thought, I'll just mirror what you said, Nick, about because it is a big whole other side of this thing about how do you find a good reviewer and how do you get a feel for the game. Your favorite Twitch guy, YouTube guy, the bottom line is that you're finding a like mind, and this is nothing new. Like, this is the thing. Like, smart people do this. They take an interest in something, they want to know if it's worth their time, then they go and find somebody of their like mind and then see what they think about it. It's a strategy that, is much older than games. So I think that's happening now. Like I've subscribed to a dude on YouTube who reviews video games just like last week, because I just don't know. Reviews seem ridiculous in the large, and from the large corporations. But in general, I think that what's going to happen is that, this is a whole nother conversation, but AAA games are a whole different animal than not AAA games. Things like I've mentioned the Talos principle in the back. That is in the past. Sorry, not in the back. That is not a AAA game. It's good though, and it's it was not hampered by all these issues that happen with AAA games. Most that can be defined by the existence of a board of directors who is looking for stakeholder value and such. And says we can't keep paying these people past the deadline because that'll hurt our bottom line and our forecasts will be screwed up and then our stocks will go down. So I imagine, just to offer a little theory, that as time goes forward, there's just going to be a widening gap between AAA games and AAA reviews and AAA press, and then everything else. Everything else is just going to find its own home because there's going to be people like us who are not down to get the extra dog skin from pre-ordering, and be inevitably disappointed, and complain. And then there's always going to be a bunch of people. I don't want to put any labels on them, but there are people who are whiny and short-sighted, and maybe aren't paying for their games themselves, and are thus not valuing it enough. And they're just going to want the big next game because maybe their buddies are playing it, and they look at the reviews, because maybe they're already in like a console war, if they're an Xbox guy, and then there's PlayStation guys, and they want to say that their exclusives are better than PlayStation exclusives. I'm going to get angry as I talk about this, so I'm going to change topics. But anyway, I think that's just going to further widen because there is more funding going into indie games, and just indie games are exploding right now, both in the amount and the quality.
Yeah.
Like I used to be like, I feel like screw those. They don't have enough production value. The graphics suck. I'm not doing it. To like, oh, these are actually like both beautiful and very like compelling because they're good.
I think you just spurred a thought that I decided not to say earlier because the conversation moved a different direction. But I'll just tack onto that and say I think that new titles now have to pleasantly surprise us in order to really stick, as opposed to where reimaginings and these big AAA sequels and stuff are more prone to, they're under this microscope, but games that pleasantly surprise and then become a good series are what I'm looking for now. So,
Absolutely.
anything to add?
Yeah, I would agree with that. Because the same thing's happening in Hollywood too. Every time you hear about a reboot or a sequel, it's like,
dude, a quick shout out to The Onion, if you guys are familiar with theonion.com, who released a thing today. I don't know if it was written before, but it said high studio executive not 100% confident that the new Batgirl series has enough stuff to be reimagined as a 1, 2, 3 rebooted and then put into some kind of goddamn like superhero Justice League. Like, it was just like not sure if it has enough stuff to be 9 movies, but like it was pretty funny, man. And that's what's going on, unfortunately. But all right, well, that's going to be the show for this week. You can find all of our individual information in the show notes at the bottom of the YouTube page, and the notes for the podcast. Those of you that listen to iTunes, thank you so much for doing that. Just so you know, we do have the visual version on YouTube, and vice versa. If you're on YouTube and you don't have the time to see our beautiful faces, or you don't want to see my ugly face, then you can just look at us on the actual podcast. Just look up Legacy Gamescast plural. But if you want to know why I hesitated there, you can go look at the stream and see if Frank was making a weird face. And then
absolutely,
you can email us at legacygamescast@gmail.com. And the stream will be every weekend at Legacy Gamescast, Twitch TV/LegacyGamesCast. Same time, 8:30 Pacific. That is 11:30 Eastern, and then in Central European time, that is, I believe that's 4:30 a.m. now, right?
It'll be 5:30 after Sunday.
Oh, okay.
So,
yeah, he's jumping forward too. He's going to rejoin us.
Yay.
Yeah.
Americans have to be first in everything,
Yeah, dude,
like always.
America number one. Wait, I'm sorry. That's offensive.
Any final shout outs, guys? Anything you want to say?
I will just note that I have my new computer is finally built. Excuse me, it's live, so everything being okay, I'll probably stream the Talos Principle Sunday at 9 o'clock for just a little while and get back into that and remember where I was. And the graphics should be just just delicious.
Beautiful. Chef kisses the fingers.
All right. Well,
yeah, I am almost.
Oh yeah.
Oh, hey, you first. Go ahead.
To my stupid brain, I figured out the password. Guess what it was?
Was it
an A.
Oh.
That's it.
No.
Those was A.
Oh.
So Andreas couldn't log into his laptop because he forgot his password. So he's been on his phone the whole time.
Yeah.
Which is
This
actually
guy,
surprisingly good.
He is better than all of us because, speaking for myself, I wouldn't have sat it there on my phone. I just said, guys, sorry, I'll see you next week.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. Today's been, for those behind the scenes today, it's been rough as we had several technical issues fighting away, but it's good to learn that stuff. We have hopefully some stuff in the pipeline for content coming up in the next few weeks. We're going to do the best of series, which I'm really excited about. We're going to talk about our favorite of everything, and we hope to get a more consistent streaming up on the LGC Legacy Gamescast Twitch.
Yeah.
So please follow us and come troll our chats, and we'll ban you. No, I'm just kidding. We'll come hang out and ask questions, and it's always fun to interact, guys. So once again, we'd love to invite you to come share your love video games with us as we just try to hang out. That's really what we're all here for. So, all right, until next week, guys, take care of yourselves. Have fun. Be safe.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right.